Good evening, everyone. Long day. Not gonna lie to you, a bit tired, but we're here. Today, I'm pretty much gonna call this failure. Reason why, I would say over a long period of time, I have come to know failure in one of two ways, and I think one way or another, it is susceptible that we deal with one, if not both of them, in our lifetime. All right, to get right to it. What I would think failure to be is one of two things. One is the idea of just quitting on something. But failing isn't always a bad thing. I will first say that for this particular type of failure. The reason why I say that is because sometimes there's a situation where you lose or you become defeated in something, or you realize that it's no point in continuing. Now, of course, that's subjective. Like, some people are quick to give up. Some people may say, "Oh, okay, I've lost this basketball tournament 5 times," or I've tried doing this art competition like 3 times, or I've been writing lyrics and dropping mixtapes and albums for 7 years. And it comes to a point where you wonder, at what point are you considered a failure? Indefinitely. Failure as in, going into the first one, quitting too early before really reaping the benefits, before really knowing patience, before really proving that you're willing to wait and endure through your passion to make something happen. The second definition of failure, I would say, is the second definition of failure is actually the opposite. It's the idea of struggling or attempting something to such an extent to where you end up in the grave. Failure is where you end up dead. Now, the reason why the second one is technically a failure, in my opinion, is because even though the second idea of failure is death as a conclusion, I think the beginning of death and the idea of failure is never reaching the potential of what you intended your dream to be, while simultaneously not being a martyr for a greater cause. Um, no, let's say, as I was saying, like a music career or something like that. There's people that don't hit a newspaper, that don't hit the Huffington Post, New York Times. There's people all around the world who don't hit the news but do things for greater causes and become essentially heroes in their own right, knowing internally righteously that it doesn't matter about who knows or who finds out. It's the end result of those who come behind them or who live after them that matters more, rather than just the picture of their reality. So some people, as we all may do, we look at our own life through our own eyes as a perception of everything. But some people look past the idea that the world is somewhat revolving around them, and they know, that dying a certain amount of years later, um, or the ideals that you fight for. Some people know that what's more important is not necessarily what they think, but beyond that. So some people give their lives and give their absolute all to make sure that, hey, even though I've been writing music, or even though I've been in sciences, or even though I've been innovating this particular technology this amount of time, the police situation, or a martial law or slavery or whatever issue it may be, they put another issue that they see that they can provide a benefit to beyond the ambitions of themselves. And in my opinion, it's a failure towards themselves as to what they may see possibly. But in my opinion, some failures in one thing means a greater success in the greater picture. So not all failures are bad. And the first definition of failure, where you just give up, it can be bad in many ways, but sometimes giving up means learning from that loss, or learning from that shortcoming, and allowing it to be a milestone to what could greater become your success. But in the second definition, sometimes it's the journey that led there that essentially makes you a success overall, even though you may feel like you wasn't a success in the end before your eyes shut in the end. So, in my opinion, the prevalence of failure is the reason why I thought of calling this episode failure, is because even though you can be failures in some ways, you can still become a victor or a hero in other ways. And failure isn't exactly, or success isn't exactly, the pinnacles of what make life to be what it is anyways. I think before we close our eyes, there's two things. I would say in a broad sense, there are three things that we want. There is companionship. We are social creatures. We want to share experiences. We want to share our losses. We want to share our wins. To be miserable alone usually to bring anxiety, thus possibly the thoughts of suicide, and furthermore that. And to win by yourself is to lack fulfillment because you don't really have any way to share the fruits of your labor. So companion, I would say, is one. I would say autonomy or security can be another one. And then I would say the third one is fulfillment. Fulfillment as in being able to enjoy the journey on your progression to your goal. There's plenty of people who reach for a goal and they die before they get there. And I would think, Lord forbid, that anyone I know or myself, if it ever came a point where death became a possibility or an inevitability, I would think that the fulfillment that led to the end would allow me to feel satisfactory towards my overall legacy before I go. So, is failure a bad thing? No. Is acknowledging and understanding its importance in life a good thing? Yes. And should we fail? I would say yes. Sometimes to fail means to succeed later. And sometimes those fails are the stepping stones that lead there. So if I got to fail 100 times to get that one success that makes me the hero that innovates and create a whole new generation of I would say, change and positive renaissance, essentially, then so be it. But if not, it's the attempt that matters. Sometimes the greatest fails can be the predecessor to what becomes the greatest successes for the next person. Malcolm X had his father. I mean, I would say a lot of the civil rights movements preceded, a lot of the civil rights movements came as a result of the ideas and innovation of Marcus Garvey. I mean, and the list can continue. The end of, I forgot what it's called. I really forgot what it's called. Oh, I remember. The end of apartheid came partially as a result of the battle with Nelson Mandela. Sometimes it takes a lot of fails to get some successes. So, I mean, sometimes we get some scars. Sometimes we get battered. Sometimes we get mentally distraught. Sometimes we lose people along the way. But it is through those pains and through those shifts of disposition and genetic mutations, through the damages and through the burns and through the beatings that we endure, that create the hero within us. So, as I have said for some years now, sometimes to acknowledge the pains and the moldings of what make you who you are is definitely worth it. Or as I say on a regular, sometimes, living a tough life makes it fun. At least I got something to tell my grandkids. But to live for nothing means to live a boring life. So I would rather live a short life of fulfillment than to live a long life of nothing. I might throw dirt on my face because that's essentially what it is. A lot of people die at the age of 25 mentally, but live to the age of 100 physically. I refuse to be one of them, and I hope you do too. But yeah, surprisingly, this has been longer than I thought, and I do hope this has helped anyone in any way. This video has definitely came later than I expected. As I said in the beginning, it's been a lot of work to consistently get taken care of, both personally, school, and business, and as you know, allowing quality time here. So if this has benefited anyone, or if you think this is worth sharing, if you think can help anyone in any way, please share. I cannot stress that enough. And excuse me, drop the camera. So anyways, yeah, if you want to share, if you think this can help anyone, send it to anyone who can learn from this message. And other than that, as I always say, every day is a good day. I actually did create a shirt with the very slogan on there. And you all be easy. This is the PsychoTutor, another night at work. Peace.